How often do you hear, oh, teachers are worked too hard, they're paid too little, and too few students are choosing to study education at university? Not true, according to new research. A report released this week by the Centre for Independent Studies suggests that the education debate in this country is dominated by loud voices in the union movement and academia who spread misconceptions about teachers. The author of that report is with me right now, Glenn Fahey. Thank you very much. So all these preconceptions we have, the conventional wisdom is all wrong.
Well, look, there's misconceptions, there's misinformation even, all through education. Just look at how many decades it took us to correct the record on reading. There's so many around teaching as well. One on quantity and one on quality. Here's the one on quantity. The education establishment's echo chamber would have us think there's a teacher shortage. Yet, teacher numbers are growing year on year, and they're growing at nearly twice the rate that student growth is growing. So it tells us that there's more than enough teachers coming through the pipeline. What we really lack are math and science teachers, and we lack teachers in the bush.
So when we think about maths and science teachers, the best people to employ to teach our kids about those subjects would be people who come from, say, engineering and IT, wouldn't they?
Look, there's a range of people that have got a really good baseline level of skills in maths and science that we really need.
But how do we drag them out of their IT and engineering jobs into teaching?
There's two things we can try. One is we've got to look at pay reasonably. We have to think about what kind of pay would attract someone from industry to come into teaching. Now, the unions don't do any help with that. They look for only across-the-board pay rises for everybody, not ones geared toward attracting someone from industry. And the other one is you can break down some barriers to ease that transition for people. 4 in 10 mid-career professionals say they would consider teaching if there were fewer barriers to enter it.
Right. See, that's interesting. And within the system of education, they tend to promote based on time spent in the business,
That's right.
not on your performance and the results of the kids that you teach.
Well, that's exactly right. And ultimately what it does is it creates a protection racket for underperformers, and it prevents entry from potentially effective teachers and simply protects the incumbents.
So we pay a little bit more, we look at that pay rate, although I've got to say, the other misconception is that teachers are paid per capita as high as any teaching profession in the world.
We're one of the highest in the world. We have some of the best resource schools.
Well, why do we
in the
need to
world.
pay them more?
Well, we've got to recognise that in every subject area, teachers do better salary-wise in teaching than they would in industry, except for maths and science. So we've got to be realistic. We need to look at market-responsive salaries that make sense for the subject area of specialisation.
So what about teachers' colleges and universities? Do we need to raise the bar on entry into those courses?
Well, what we need to do overall in teaching is to raise the bar, not just raise the numbers. Now, it's not just about raising the standards to get in. It's really more about raising the quality of training that teachers get while they're at university. Right. And if we fail to do that, it's just too convenient for universities to blame the quality of incoming teachers, because that just absolves responsibility for training them well.
Why do we have poor quality teaching courses?
Well, sadly, we've had poor training within universities for many years. Our own reports have shown that the majority of universities don't provide the evidence-based practice based on the most up-to-date practices that should be employed in the classrooms. And in part, it's because a lot of the training process is about training new teachers to be academics rather than being effective practitioners.
Yes, effective practitioners. You're spot on the money. Glenn Fahey, thank you very much. And hopefully your report will get into the hands of those who make the big decisions, which are the ministers.
Let's hope so.
Good on you. Thank you very much for that.